Let's start with what a game is. A game design should have the following 6 elements: challenge, mental and/or physical, goals, rewards, rules, implied or obvious, interactivity, do, observe, respond, repeat, decision making, which is required to meet the challenge criterion. The previous lists focused on core elements of what games require. Obviously, there are many other elements you can find in games, but pretty much everything else is optional. Here are just a few examples of design elements that a game can have. Graphics. Not just dressing. I mean graphics actually leading the gameplay. Sound. This is not just background audio. The audio cues actually help or mean something to the player. This can include voice acting and in the future will likely contain quality speech generation. Story. This is not just preamble or backstory, but where the story leads or responds to gameplay. Plot twists or splits. These usually mean the path is not completely predictable and linear. Cutscene movies. These are commonly used as an introduction, then to fill gaps in the story, then as an ending. The best ones use the game engine, and you can actually interact within them. Tutorial. This can get people going without reading a manual first. Credits. These are usually at the end, but sometimes they are delivered as the game starts playing, like in a movie. Game characters. This sometimes requires actors or sports stars to deliver credible performances, but also include all the various enemies, allies, and neutral characters in the game. Dialogue. This is usually written by the writer, so the characters ooze the personality that's been set up by the story. Interactive dialogue. Sometimes this allows you to converse with the characters. In the long term, we expect voice recognition to make this somewhat free-flowing. Backstory. This is important to help guide your decisions. If you know that you were a thief, it might lead the game design. A manual. This is good for revealing the potential depth of the game, so the gamer will want to dive in deeper. In-game help. This is good for keeping the gamer from getting frustrated. One of the most requested items of in-game help is a map. Levels. These should be laid out so that the gamer will want to see what's next. Missions. Give your player big goals so they keep focused. Submissions. Give your player small, rewarding goals that they don't have to complete. An ending. If the ending of a movie is weak, no matter how great the movie was, you are left unsatisfied. And games are the same way. Puzzles to make the gamer think. This works in almost every game, even sports games or first-person shooters. The days of mindless shooting are pretty much over. Character statistics. In movies, the hero tends to improve in some way, and games are the same. Even if you don't reveal it to the gamer as statistics, there should be growth going on. Time pressure. This can be a good way to get people focused on missions. However, it can also make them start ignoring submissions if they are in too much a hurry, so be careful with this. Status feedback system. This is some kind of feature in the design where it's clear that it's the player's fault for failing. It should never be a surprise. A health bar is a simple example of this. A scoring system. This is usually for comparing progress with others, but it can be used to motivate gamers to take more risk or as an indicator to challenge themselves to improve on previous performances. It can even be used as a qualification test for further advancement in the game. Levels of difficulty. In the future there will be a lot of automatic difficulty systems and pre-test systems, so you won't be able to pick difficult if you're not ready for difficult. Villains. It's always good to have enemies or challengers. Violence. This works best when it has a reason to exist, such as to make you hate someone or to win in a fight against seemingly impossible odds. I think the days of blood spray selling your game are pretty much over. Death. It's important to take death seriously. Some games just immediately restart, so death has little meaning. I like when you feel the impact of death and become much more cautious. Paintball versus laser tag is a great example. If the shots don't hurt, you don't care. After being shot in paintball, you take getting shot again much more seriously. Visual effects. These are most commonly used for explosions and so on. What we care about here is whether you can use visual effects to lead or affect gameplay. The answer is absolutely. Think about fog, a building on fire, being caught in a blizzard. These can all affect the experience. Of course, great effects also make the gameplay more fun for their sheer visual impact, but they can go much further than that. Sexual content. Sex is supposed to sell, but in games it's pretty lame. It can, however, be good for humor and can also be fun for flirting and so on. Humor. Probably the most underused element of game design is humor, yet we all love funny movies, TV shows, and so on. Humor can be dark, too, so you don't need to have a comedy game to have a funny moment.